A very good morning, everyone. And as our MC rightly pointed out, it's a topic which sort of is about putting us out of job. It's about humans need not apply. So we're talking about a world which is increasing in automation, and in an automated world, where does the human stand? Does he really have a place at all? So how are we looking at a world which is probably going to be robots and humans working together? And it's going to be, whether it's going to be painful, whether it's going to be something we're going to enjoy. And is it overall going to be fruitful for everybody and everyone all around is something we're going to take up in this panel in the next 17 minutes. And I've got a great panel over here today. There's Adam from Accenture, who's been, as he told me just a minute backstage, he's been there for 25 years. He's been doing some great work at Accenture and in the automation area. We've got Elizabeth. Elizabeth is working on the processes which are probably going to displace us. So you can, put her angst on her. And we've also got Michael here. And Michael is dealing with the cybersecurity, a big issue that we're going to see in the future when there's going to be so much data all around. So as a starting point, I'm going to throw the first question to you, Adam. And I want to know what do you think is the future of labor? What do you think people in jobs are going to look like 5 years hence?
Sure. That's a really complicated question, but I'm going to try and boil it down for you and make it a very consumable. The way that we look at this, and we spend a lot of time thinking about this because we do business advisory services for clients and strategic thinking about where their businesses are going to be heading. And I think there's one fundamental kind of guiding principle that we have that is really important, and that's we believe that the impact of automation and artificial intelligence, it's more about making humans super rather than making superhumans. And for us, enabling people and amplifying their experience, enabling them to do more than was ever possible previously is the right way to look at it. Yes, there'll be a lot of companies that look at artificial intelligence and automation as a means of labor savings, but that's a really short-term view. The ones that will be transformational in their industries, the ones that will truly dominate the businesses of the future, are the ones that are looking about how do they actually amplify humans to do more and better things than they were able to do previously. A great example of this is work that we've done in the insurance industry, where we've taken the experience of claims adjusting. Has everybody here ever had an automobile accident? Yeah, so probably quite a few of you. It used to be that you'd have to take your vehicle into a claims adjuster's shop where they would spend time taking apart and telling you how much damage was done and providing you an estimate, and you'd argue with them about that and that type of thing. Well, these days, we've actually been able to train AI systems where you can, at the site of an accident, take pictures of what the damage is to your vehicle and automatically get that adjusted. Your time it takes for you to get your vehicle repaired and back on the road is a third to a half of what it was previously. Your experience with your insurance industry is better, and your agent, your claims adjuster, who used to do that work, is now working on more value-added tasks, like making sure that if your health is okay, and that if you need to go to the hospital, that problems are addressed. Is the other driver dealt with? Are there additional products and insurance services that they can sell you? And overall, the experience is better, and the profitability is different. So our belief is it's about making humans super, not making superhumans that replace us.
That's a statement today that you made, Adam, and I think it's going to probably go on for a long time when we start from here. Elizabeth, I'll come to you. What business model do you see coming out? I mean, given the point of view that Adam has thrown over here, it's about making humans super. How do you see that elevating into a business model? What is the process you see getting developed for this to really happen?
Sure. Well, if we build on the case that you were just talking about, the claims adjustment case, from the business point of view, because I'm also familiar with that particular case study, we were talking about it backstage. If you look at the key process indicator for the business, moving from something that is around like the amount of money paid out or some other metric to a very simple metric of how long does it take to get back on the road, to get the customer back on the road. And building the business process around optimizing for that, that's fundamentally transformational. And that's what this kind of technology really powers. And so the transformation is in the technology and in how it enables the human to focus on making sure the other humans in the system are doing well. But it's also transformational for the business in terms of added value. It's not just about cost savings. It's about adding that value to the customer. It increases customer loyalty. It means that they aren't going to have to spend as much time, as much money trying to advertise to customers because that word of mouth is going to spread. Right. It's a phenomenal experience for the customer, and that means that it's a transformational change in the business model.
Sure. And Michael, coming to you, do you see it as a nightmare for data, for the cybersecurity? Because there's just too much data floating around all over the place, you know? I mean, as you mentioned about a smart city, in a smart city, there's data everywhere. How do you manage it?
Well, I think, this is going to be the transformation in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity has been a lot around correcting the perimeter, right? It's about keeping people out and keeping stuff in. But this new world that's being talked about over here is about data that's flowing everywhere, and it's about a much larger scale of interdependence of this data, right? Very few of these systems will probably be self-contained. So you take the smart city as a perfect example, where you have cars moving through the city that must get information from the municipality, right? Maybe about traffic flows, about other kinds of things, or there's an accident over here. That data is being collected somewhere. It needs to go to the car. The car needs to speak to that. It needs to speak to the cars in front of it, behind it, or maybe 3 cars behind it, depending on what it's doing. It may be needing to talk to the manufacturer at the same time to make sure that everything's running the way it should be. When you start looking at that interdependence of that data, then the integrity of that data becomes critical, because now the scale is gigantic. It's not just my car breaks down, right? But my car is getting improper information, insecure information. Maybe the municipal system has been hacked. Now every car in the system that's on the road in that city at any one moment can no longer move, and it's rush hour, right? So the ripple effect becomes gigantic. So you have to have a safe, secure, and trusted platform where my car or my traffic light knows that what it's getting is true and real, and it's not coming from somewhere else. So it's not just about protecting that device over here or that device over there. That will still exist. It's about understanding how all this stuff moves through the system and how you secure data at rest, data in motion, and how you make sure that the data that left from this point is the same data that arrives over there. Sure. It's going to be a huge challenge.
I can almost see it coming. Adam, I come from India. And I write for a magazine, and I can tell you about Indian statistics. We are almost going to be the first country in the world with as many people as there are. You know, we're going to be the largest population in the world. Mm-hmm. Now, what I would really like for you to tell me is, which country do you see adopting the robotic structure? Do you see a country like India doing it, or maybe a country which is lesser population and is always looking for immigrants to come over to do their works? Which country goes first?
So in terms of our business activity in the artificial intelligence and automation space, I'd say that 2 areas where we're probably most active are in the United States and in China. Both of those countries and actually most of the developing world right now is looking at challenges from capital investments and getting better returns out of that, and they're also looking at lower increases of labor, the labor population. In fact, aging workforces and other things is actually making that decline. So they need to drive greater levels of productivity out of them. And in order to get that, they're turning to solutions like robotics and artificial intelligence to make sure that they continue to grow their GDP and actually accelerate some of the growth inside that. Now, India, having an increasing population, presents us some different challenges, right? But artificial intelligence will play a role in helping to solve some of those problems too. For example, in providing healthcare. And being able to solve some of the problems of access to healthcare and better diagnostics and others. And AI is certainly a solution for that. Congestion on roads. Has anybody here ever driven in India before? Not me. They won't actually let me get behind the wheel in India because it is so congested and unbelievable. That's because a human's reaction time is totally different than a machine's. And if we can have machines driving vehicles and we can have lower accident rates and better health for humans, doesn't this help solve some of the other problems that India has structurally as well? So while you're embracing an adoption of robotics maybe for different purposes because of where you are in India in terms of its economic life cycle versus China versus the US, I think globally we're going to see embracing and adoption of it to help solve really serious problems around the world, whether it's growth or dealing with limited resources and how we take advantage of them. Growing food is another great example.
Yeah. Do you see, do you see a bigger cybersecurity threat in countries which are, let's say a country like India or a country like China, where the data, of course, would be huge, and there's sort of so much scope for leakages to happen as well because of the entire structure.
Yeah, so I think, probably most people have heard of the WannaCry, virus ransomware outbreak that happened lately, the Petya impact. So that showed another kind of digital divide. We always think of the digital divide as being people who have technology versus people that don't have technology. What we saw in that particular attack is speaking exactly to what you're asking about, is that you have some people who have technology, but they don't have the latest and the greatest technology. Right? So people who were running newer systems, newer versions of software, newer operating systems were much less at risk. So we're building vulnerabilities across the ecosystem if we don't have the opportunity to make the kind of capital investments it takes for everybody to be at the same place technologically. And that's going to be an issue, right? Because, maybe for the big companies, they're always got the latest and the greatest. They can have the IT budgets, they can, invest. But you have a medium-sized company that makes an investment in 2017, and they can't make that investment again in 2019. They got to wait till 2025, and by then they're out of date, and that makes them more vulnerable. And if that system is talking to your more sophisticated system over here, then you can have problems. And so there's going to be these other kinds of divides in the technology which are going to cause a lot of risk to happen.
Thank you for implying I'm a more sophisticated system. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know that. I met you.
Okay, so I'll ask you, so it's a human thing, and the robots at the end of the day are machines. And I'm an editor. My entire work is very creative. It's about thinking and being able to think in a different way, trying to put things better, expressing them better. Now, how do I get a robot to do that for me? They don't have a plan B. So how do you think creativity comes at risk when we are operating in a robotic world?
I think that what you just hit on, though, is that a robot isn't going to replace you. However, to build on what you were saying before, Adam, that the robot isn't going to make you a superhuman, right? It's going to make your ability to do your job better by automating the pieces of it that are time-consuming, by making it easier for you to, whatever aspect of your job it is that's repetitive, by automating that. When I look at the amount of office automation that now we completely take for granted, like we don't even talk about it anymore. We don't talk about the fact that the vast majority of people don't need help scheduling a meeting because Google Calendar enables us to do that. So when you think about your job, you're not going to get replaced, but your job is going to get easier and easier, which is going to free you up to focus on the most creative aspects of it and the part where you really add value as a person.
Sure. You want to add to that?
My point of view on this is that it will be extremely transformational. The amount of disruption that you have as an individual in terms of the bombardment of information and others, if you can have an artificial intelligence system that's a smarter, more personalized agent around you, you can be more effective. And as I said earlier, it amplifies your ability. Me personally, I learn better through visual pictures and through representation of data in a different way, perhaps, probably than you do or you do, right? Maybe written way is the best way in which you interpret information, and maybe more video is the way that she does. Well, what if you had a personal assistant that captured all the information that you needed to know during the course of a day and then represented that knowledge in a way which you best learned or interpreted it? Wouldn't that make you more effective as a human? And this is what the capabilities of AI really offer us. So if you open up the door to that, it's about amplifying you and making you more creative and more able, so you can focus more attention and time on the stories and less time on responding to the emails.
Sure. So we're almost about to be out of time. So this is one thing I would want all three of you to take up in about, let's say, in a minute or so. What addition do you think is going to happen, let's say, in a department like mine or like yours, what additional person or the person who's going to come out of his role in any department is what you see? I mean, so any particular position you see being created because if humans want to work together with robots, or
Yeah.
any sort of people you think who gonna be this position is gonna become redundant?
Well, I think what we're going to see more in cybersecurity is we're going to see much more automation of the basics, and we're going to see the experts are going to be the people who can interpret this data. We've already seen in some of these big data breaches that they had the information about the breach, but no one could see it because there was an overload of information. And I think we'll see that information parsed much better, and we'll see real super experts being able to put the pieces together about what this all means. And I think that will be the change. And then maybe less at the lower end about just looking at the low-level threats.
There's so much happening in this space, and yes, it will change the way our workforce looks and the types of roles that are inside of it. And there's two things I probably would say about that. One is we spent generations teaching people how to use machines, not teaching people how to train machines. And that is a very different thing. If you have ever trained a machine, the types of activities you have to perform to train an AI system and then to be able to do reinforcement learning on it are very different than being able to use a machine to accomplish a purpose. I think another thing is that the role of someone like your human resources officer is going to absolutely change. AI agents are, in some ways, will be like employees. They're going to have supervision. They're going to need training programs. I saw something yesterday that said AI agents will actually require insurance policies very much like ships do today, where you insure a ship against certain problems. That implies that your human resources agents inside of a company are going to need to be thinking about how do I take care and nurture of these folks, just like I do, from employment to retire to hire, or hire to retire, rather, that we do for our employees today. And the same is going to take place with AI solutions.
And data is at the heart of all of this because AI doesn't work without data, which means that the role of people who work with data is going to become more and more important, and we will need more and more people who understand, from data engineers, data scientists, chief data officers in organizations who are going to be able to oversee all of this, both from a governance standpoint and a safety and a security standpoint, and from a building the value around the data standpoint.
Right.
Well, so just to sum it up, I can tell you this, that robots are not going to displace humans. It's in fact humans who are going to displace robots from a long-term perspective. Or in fact, we're going to make machines love us a lot more than they do us now. So thank you very much for being a great audience. Thank you, Michael, Elizabeth, Adam, for this lovely, wonderful areas that you have shared light on. Thank you once again.
Thank you.